Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of Supernatural, The Big Empty. And I thought this was a pretty solid episode. It was pretty much broken up into two parts. One dealing with Sam, Dean, and Jack going on a typical kind of hunt to kind of like get Jack acquainted with what they're doing, and the other one dealing with Castiel and what's kind of going on with him. So the cast part was pretty well done. That's where the interesting stuff really got into play, I think, in this episode, because we get to him, he's kind of walking around this kind of void, and as he's kind of doing that, we see this kind of liquidy, weird kind of creature come up out of nowhere. And as we're going through the episode, he's still kind of walking around, he's like, I know you're there, and then we see this liquidy creature thing turn into Castiel. And I really gotta hand it to Misha Collins doing Castiel in this episode and this cosmic entity, because it only refers to itself as your like friendly neighborhood cosmic entity, making me think it's more kind of a Lovecraftian kind of entity before kind of times kind of thing, because it kind of gets into that talking about, oh yeah, what do you think there was in the beginning? And he's like before God, Amara, heaven, hell, earth, and all that. He's like, nothing, yeah, nothing but the empty. So we get the kind of lowdown of what this place is called, the empty. And evidently this is where angels and demons go when they die. And they're supposed to sleep. But something woke up Castiel, unless something woke up this entity, and this entity just wants to go to sleep. And, of course, it's trying to, like, question Castiel, and he's like, I don't know what's going on, so, of course, he pulls the kind of typical thing, and puts his hand on his head, and, like, reads his mind and everything. And he's like, well, I'm awake, so why don't you just send me back to Earth, or release me? He's like, well, I could do that, but I could also throw you deeper into the empty, because he's trying to figure out what happened, because he's the one that's got power over this domain. Not heaven, hell, or God or anything. Castiel's like, well, the Winchesters probably did something, made a deal or whatnot. He's like, no, they didn't make a deal with me. So he's like, I could throw you deeper into the empty. And Castiel, being smart as he is like, well, if that was an option, you would have already done that and not would have gone through this. So you want to go to sleep? Just send me back. So he's pretty much gotten the entity into this corner, and of course, after beating him a little bit, trying to tell him to pretty much go to sleep, Castiel's still going on, send me back to Earth, and also bringing up all the memories that he'd done, being like a disappointment, trying to pretty much guilt him into just going back to sleep. And we just see them kind of like standing off, and then at the end of the episode, we see that Castiel is in this field, and he's like, obviously been sent probably back to Earth by this entity, so that way he can go back to sleep. Because Cass pretty much was like, well, if you don't send me back, I'm going to pretty much make us both insane by staying awake and pretty much screwing with you. And it's like, yeah, Cass did a pretty good job of kind of just playing his position very well in that scenario. So it's like, okay, we're getting some good movement on that. We'll have to see the repercussions of that going forward. So, with Sam and Dean and Jack, we get into the kind of monster of the week. In the beginning of the episode, we saw this dude killed by his supposedly dead wife, and it's not like a ghost-like scenario because she stabs him, he's lying dying on the floor as she like walks out the door. It's like, oh shit. So of course, they're in the bunker. Sam pretty much comes in, asks what Dean's doing, and he's like, well, we got a case, and this guy was killed by his dead wife, so how about we go check him? He's like, yeah, how about we bring Jack along? He's like, because I don't want to do adventures in babysitting with the Antichrist kind of thing. And he's still harping on Sam trying to use Jack to get their mom back, that he should just accept the fact that their mom is dead, that Lucifer probably ripped out her heart once they were on the other side of the port. And he's like, he pretty much gets him into it, so he goes to Jack's room, knocks on the door, opens it up, seeing what he's doing, and he's watching Clone Wars. He's like, yeah, I like Ahsoka, but I kind of hate Anakin. And it was kind of funny because you can get that kind of like chosen one thing, and so it's like, that's probably for the best. And pretty much asked Jack if he wants to go along with them on the hunt. And he's like, no, you just kind of want to use me as an interdimensional can opener, and I got to give props for Sam. He's like, yeah, I thought if you got your powers and are able to use them better, we can save my mom. Save Sam and Dean's mom. And this is where Jack kind of perks up. He's like, well, he's lost his mom, so anybody else trying to save their mom, yeah. And he's like, listen, if it doesn't work, that doesn't matter. I still care about you, Jack. He's like, yeah, I should have told you about that, but yeah. And it was pretty good on Sam to do that. So, of course, they go off, and it's interesting seeing them kind of like trying to teach him about the Hunter Life. Granted, he's still a couple days old, and is still trying to get into, like, their whole personas in line and everything, and is talking about maybe being a ghost. It's like, people can come back? Yeah, if they've got unfinished business and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, well, if there's no EMF, could be a revenant. He's like, what's a revenant? Pretty much a zombie. So, of course, Sam wants Jack to go check out the crime scene, but Dean pretty much tells him to stay in the car as they go talk to the neighbor, pretty much get the rundown on the info that, yeah, it was the dead wife. I've known them for years. And they look over and they see that the door's open. He's like, oh, we got a runner. And, of course, they go in. Jack's kind of like getting ready to touch the pool of blood and all that stuff. But Dean's kind of pissed off at him, saying, what are you doing? I told you to stay in the car. He's like, I am trying to help. And Sam's like, well, have you found anything? Not really, just this. And then they're giving more explanation about ghosts, get out the EMF reader, see if there's nothing. It's like, well, that's got to be confirmation that it's a revenant. So they, of course, go to the grave to just kind of take care of business. And, of course, he tells Jack to be the one to dig open the grave and all that. And Sam's like, petting him. He's like, listen, you're pretty much giving orders like Dad. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That worked for you, but didn't work for me, and I don't think it's going to work for Jack. He's like, I'm not here to hold his hand and everything. And look, he's good at digging. So they dig it up. They're like, okay, body's here, so that rules out revenant. What kind of ghost doesn't give off any EMF readings? And Dean's like, well, we've got portals to alternate dimensions. We've got shape-shifting demons. Everything's kind of out the window. So they self-confirm the body. And they're kind of like, okay, let's see what's going on here. Because at that point, Jack's like, well, could my mom come back as a ghost? He's like, no, we burned her body. So what's burned kind of stays dead. So, of course, we then get to the next victim. This woman has her tire go flat. She's calling and talking with the kind of car people. But then she turns around and sees Scotty, and Scotty attacks her. And then, of course, the boys get there. We find out that she was, like, ripped apart, but that it wasn't a ghost because she was talking about Scotty on the phone while she was with the car people. Like, huh, that's kind of weird. So they go to investigate a little bit more. They see that they were seeing the same grief counselor, and Mia Valens, they give homework talking about, like, catharsis and their grief journals and all that, while Jack's going to get food. Sam kind of, like, dings Dean for being, like, using him kind of like an intern. He's like, I've got an eye on him. Whatever. So, of course, they pretty much get ready to go off. They're like, okay, we can't do the FBI kind of stuff here. They've kind of pegged down that it could possibly be a medium, kind of pissing off, like, spirits, so that way they can go, like, kill people. And so they're just like, okay, we'll go in like a family. So they do. We see this dude coming out, and he says hi to them. Sam and Dean don't do anything, but Jack says hi to him, and as he turns around, which actually helps them out a little bit later on. So they go in, and at first the assistant dude is like, listen, it's the end of the day, but of course they talk me into seeing them. They talk about that they're brothers and that they've lost their mom recently, and this was interesting in that they actually do kind of start talking about Mary's death, kind of. And seeing that Dean doesn't give a crap and thinks that it's like snake oil kind of stuff, while Sam thinks it's a healthy way for people to deal. And, of course, they're trying to fish for stuff. Dean's not being very tactful or tactical in it, and just like going, okay, what's catharsis and all this stuff, and how people shouldn't be talking about the program. Because Mia's like, I do kind of stuff a little bit differently. Now, I kind of called that it would probably be a kind of shifter thing by what was going on, because they're kind of talking about how the program is and how she kind of was with what the program entailed. But they're talking about, like, dealing with the death of their mom, and Sam bringing up that, like, she'd always call you you had a relationship with her that I never had and that I can't have. And he kind of gets so pissed off that he leaves. And of course, that's where Sam goes upstairs and finds the whole shifter thing, while Mia pretty much is saying, hey, Dean, you can be angry about it, but you're directing your anger at everybody else. I mean, look at Jack. He's terrified of you. And, of course, that's when Sam comes back in and pretty much like, she's a shifter. She's like, whoa, hold on. Yes, I'm a shifter. I haven't killed anybody. And she's like, well, what about your 2 patients? And she's like, they're dead? No, I've got an alibi that she would volunteer down at, like, a shelter. And, of course, they call, they get through. It's like, okay, what's going on here? She's, like, trying to think of who would have access to everything. And it's like, okay, I don't know. Just let me try and think. And she's like, oh, okay. She used to be with this other shifter, Buddy. And she's like, well, he could potentially be doing this. I wanted to get away from him and kind of make up for all the stuff that we did. So she became a counselor and gave people closure by shifting into their dead relatives to kind of give them closure. It's like, that's actually a pretty good idea for a shifter to do. That's a really good thing to do. So she's like giving us the lowdown on him that he would like to ruin lives and everything, see the look on people's faces. So being a real dick about it. So, of course, they try and run down who could it potentially be. They kind of settle on the assistant, and, of course, that's where Dean and Jack go off to go to the assistant, and, of course, Dean is pretty much talking to Jack. Jack's like, let me come in now. He's like, listen, Sam's plans don't usually work out that well. So, I'm going in. He pretty much puts a silver dollar in the dude's hand. We don't see that, but he had called Sam to talk about that. And we're like, okay, he's out. And there's like scrubbing through the security cam footage. And the dude that Jack said hello to turns out to be the shifter. And that's one of her new patients that started coming in. So, of course, Sam decides to go off by himself. That's when, like, Dean and Jack kind of come back. And, of course, he's trying to call him and everything and figure out what to do. You know what I mean? Because they're like, okay, we don't know where this dude is. So Sam went off to go kind of like check out what's going on. So, of course, we get to a point where Dean's by himself. Jack and Mia go off to talk on their own whilst Dean's trying to get in contact with Sam. And we see that Mia helps Jack get closure by transforming into Kelly and talking about his kind of feelings, like he wants to be good. Sam believes that he can be good like his mom, and that he has hurt people by accident, but he doesn't feel bad. He doesn't feel anything. He wonders if that makes him a monster. And then, of course, Mia as Kelly is pretty much like, listen, it doesn't matter what you are. It matters what you do. Even a monster can do good. And that kind of helps Jack and everything. It's like, all right, cool. And, of course, Sam then contacts Dean and says that, well, the shifter was there and killed the dude, so he's coming back. And he's like, well, that was easy. And we see that the shifter's there and took Dean's form, goes in, knocks Jack out, and does a really cool transformation sequence to be Buddy. So, of course, we then get to Buddy cuffing Dean up and all that, and Jack's kind of knocked out over there. And we see Buddy pretty much like, listen, you shouldn't have ran out on me. You think you're too good for me. All right, here we go. I'm not going to kill these guys. You're going to kill them, or I'm going to kill you. And she kind of surprised him by saying, go ahead, kill me. And, of course, before he can do that, Sam is back at that place, and we hear the door and everything. He's like, oh, okay. I'm just going to wait for him, pretty much. And, of course, at this point, Dean's like trying to get Jack to use his powers to unlock the cuffs and everything. And Dean's trying to warn Sam, but Buddy goes over and pretty much stops him from talking and uses his mimicking voice to get Sam to come in. And, of course, he comes in, but Jack sees this, goes, no, uses his powers to kind of suspend and get a hold on Buddy, but he's not able to stop the bullet from being fired, but he is able to deflect the bullet from Sam while Sam shoots Buddy and kills him. It's like, shit, that was pretty good to show Jack's use of his powers and that he can do a good amount of stuff simultaneously if he's got the kind of like motivation, because And here, we saw that kind of like anger, like a high stress kind of situation helped him be like, tap into his powers because he's like, he didn't want Sam to die. And he stopped that, deflected the bullet, and it's like, okay, cool. So now we got to see how he's able to do any more of that. So of course, Mia's talking to him about like, listen, I'll take care of this. I'll get rid of the body and everything. We're cool. And everybody's like, alright. So, of course, we then get to Jack and Dean, and he's like, you did good today, kid, on their back of the bunker. He's like, thanks. Alright. So, of course, then we see Sam and Dean talking, and of course, he's like, well, the kid did good today and everything. And he's like, well, what if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about Mom? What if I have been in denial? He's like, listen, don't say that. You need to keep the faith for both of us because I don't believe in anything. He's kind of lost all that kind of stuff because of everything that's happened from last season. He doesn't believe in anything anymore. It's like, damn, that's a big thing for Dean to admit. You can like see it on his face and see Sam being worried like, damn. And there's kind of like, holy crap. Because at least we see Dean kind of like coming to terms saying like, you know what, I'm sorry I've been a dick. But then going and be like, I don't believe in anything anymore. It's like, crap, that's a big thing for Dean to admit. And then that's a kind of big burden to put on to Sam to have that kind of faith for stuff and be like, whoa. So we'll have to kind of see how that shakes out because we've seen that Jack can be counted on and it more wasn't just like a sneeze. So it might start kind of bringing Dean a little bit around gradually. So he's not just into the kill mode no matter what. It's like, okay, I'm prepared to kill him, but he has proved that he's eager and willing to do what needs to be done. And that's kind of where we're done with the episode because the end was Castiel being brought back and that whole thing being brought into. So I'm interested to see how these intersect and what the repercussions are. Because we don't know if Castiel has his powers or if he's just a depowered angel at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see what the ramifications will be, him being back, what that means for like if God and Amara sense this, or if they got to do something with that entity, if that entity could potentially become a problem later on, and how Sam and Dean will eventually, what their compromise is going to be on Jack, and what Jack is going to choose going later on in the season. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.